Hola, ship familia. Hope everyone is safe and cozy in their homes tonight. Welcome back to the latinXfactor Sharpen Your Professional Edge program. I'm Dr. Dora Renault here at Ship National. We have a record-breaking show for you tonight. This is the highest number of registrations we have had yet. So this month, our focus is on financial literacy, which is more important than ever as people manage investments and debt in an unreliable economy. Tonight, we will explore topics such as managing money while transitioning from school into the corporate world, as well as making smart choices during times of crisis. We will also explore ways to help you better understand your company benefits and offer advice to plan for future financial security. Tonight, we're going to hear from some lifetime members and very familiar ship faces, Aileen Tapia and William Gonzalez. These two have given endless hours to being ship volunteers and have a deep commitment and dedication to the ship mission. Aileen Tapia is currently working in management consulting at Accenture. And prior to working in digital transformation, she completed her bachelor's in industrial and systems engineering degree from the University of Texas at El Paso. Eileen has developed a deep passion for STEM awareness through community outreach, women empowerment, and diversity and inclusion. William Gonzalez has been supporting SHIP since 2012. While studying industrial engineering at the University of South Florida, he works as an account manager at Rockwell Automation, where he provides automation solutions to different manufacturing industries. Outside of work, he is still engaged with SHIP and FIRST Robotics. So Eileen and William, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you tonight, Dora?
Doing great.
Good to hear. Thank you for having us, Dora.
Okay. Let's find out who's in the audience tonight. Are we ready for a poll?
We're ready for the poll.
Hey. So launching the poll.
Where's the check box for high school students, Dora?
Well, we didn't invite high school students. We've got 20% that have voted, and it's still going. Highest one so far is university students. We have 72% that have voted. We've got a high number of recent graduates as well. We've got 80% awesome. That have voted. We're slowing down a little bit at 90%. And we will go ahead and close the polls. And we'll share the results. So we have 36% are university students, 23% are recent graduates, 15% are 3 to 5 years in their career, and we have 25% that are 5 years or more in their career.
Awesome. So happy to see that we have a huge variety of people listening in. Guys, so just a heads up for you guys, we're going to be taking questions, but either send them in typed, and then towards the end, Dora's going to filter them and ask them to us. So we'll be able to get through the presentation and then answer all the questions that you guys have. We'll start with introductions. Hey everyone, William Gonzalez. For those of you who don't know me, I am from Florida, from a place called Ocala, Florida, and I studied industrial engineering at the University of South Florida. While I was at USF, I was in SHIP since my freshman semester, my first semester, and I was president, fundraising chair, and started supporting the national organization. I am one of 3 children from immigrant parents from Nicaragua, and after getting out of college, I was like, man, I still want to be involved in SHIP. So outside of like traveling, what I do for my leisure, I do FIRST Robotics and SHIP. So now I'm here in Houston working for Rockwell and supporting SHIP chapters in a local area. So there's about 6 university chapters I support here and a high school team for FIRST Robotics that I support. So happy to be here tonight, and hopefully this is beneficial to you guys. And then I forgot to
Awesome.
mention on the top right of our slides, we have our QR codes for LinkedIn, and we'll have them at the end too. So you guys can.
Thank you. So hey everyone, my name is Aileen Tapia. I currently work at Accenture, and like Dora mentioned, I attended the University of Texas El Paso. My family is from Mexico, so here's my mom and my grandma on a trip that we went to Mexico City. And I studied industrial and systems engineering, and I hope to start my master's in systems engineering back at UTEP. While I was in college, I was very involved with SHPE and other organizations. I started out as a secretary, president. I was also part of the regional student representative for Region 5. And then this is a picture of my fellow RSRs when I was national undergraduate representative. After graduating, I took a 2-week Spain solo trip, and this is a picture of Sevilla, which was my favorite city. And then I joined Accenture. This is a picture of me recruiting at last year's conference. And so now I've evolved into more women empowerment movements and doing things like financial literacy workshops that I would really like to have all this information when I was in college or 2 years ago when I joined the workforce. And so we wanted to basically have an open conversation about finances. Disclaimer, William and myself are just friends that are very passionate about this topic, but we are not financial advisors or any of that sort. And so we just really kind of want to gauge where you guys feel as far as how confident you feel in regards to your finances. So Dora, if we can launch the second poll to see where
and I
our
think you guys
audience
can hear me while you're doing the poll. So Eileen and I are, like, we talk about our finances pretty openly, and we kind of discuss our different strategies. And we think it's one of those things in our household we didn't really talk about very often. So with us going into the professional workforce, we're like, who do we talk to? How do we make decisions? And that's kind of the reason that we wanted to bring this up. Not necessarily that we want to tell you guys what to do, but hey, start having these conversations, find somebody that you do have confidence in, or a mentor or your friends, and just discuss like what's going on around you.
Okay. So we're at 70% with responses. Give them a few more seconds, but right now, 46% say somewhat confident. That's the highest one so far.
Okay.
And we're slowing down a little bit at 80%. And we will go ahead and close the polls at 90%. We'll share the results. So we have 45% are somewhat confident, and then 25% are not quite confident. 24% are very confident, and then we have 5% that are not confident.
So what I'm seeing here is like we have 3/4 of the population is not fully confident. If you guys have questions, absolutely send them in. For you guys who are very confident, if you don't have questions but you have suggestions, I still would like to see those sent in. And we might not be able to read those off today, but I think we'll take notes and either send something out. But I think it'll be good. If you guys have suggestions or topics that you would want us to cover, that'll be good for either now or in the future discussions.
Awesome. So this is the rough agenda that we have to today, like kind of why are we here? Why are we having this conversation? We're going to talk about 3 different things: credit, retirement, and investing. And basically this is what we think is valuable for what we would have preferred to know when we were a student and transition into the workforce. William and I roughly have 2 years into the workforce, so we don't have all the answers, but like I said before, it's mainly opening the conversation and having those healthy discussions to try and figure out what works for each and every one of us. So the first slide, we're going to talk about financial empowerment. Financial success is something that only you are going to be able to define. The lack of financial education can put you in a stressful situation. Maybe it's giving you anxiety. Some people have gotten depressed. So owning this part of your life can really help you just have a healthy lifestyle. And so it's going to take some action for you to take in order to get to whatever you define as financial success. I would like for everyone to, at some point in the day, just think about the psychological roadblocks that they might have. So when we were growing up, thinking about like, how was money part of our lives? How did our parents talk about money with us? Does money have a negative connotation? I'm a first generation student. The financial system in Mexico is way different to what it is here in the States. So I couldn't really ask any of those money questions to my parents because they just simply don't know. And I think that's the same situation with William. And so I think this is a very unique situation for us because we don't know all these things. And I think you don't know what you don't know. Why we think it's your relationship with money, you can think of it as a dating app or marriage material. So what kind of relationship you want to have with your money? You just want to deal with it every now and then, or you really want to have a long-term commitment of investing your time and effort to understand how it works and how it can work for you. Part of this presentation, we want to make sure that you have like the foundation of what can set you up for success. So we want to bring awareness around the fact that you are going to have gaps, but we want for you guys to create your own little roadmap in order to get to what you define as success. And so I think with the social environment that we live in, how many likes some pictures have from your friends, I think financial, the value of financial literacy is very unique, and it's very related to what you define as success. Owning a house might be my success rating, but maybe someone else, they just want to have a multi-million dollar business. And so I think best practice is to not compare your story to others and work on yourself through resources, through other people, to make sure that you're working to have a good financial health in your life.
Yeah, Eileen, before you go forward, my favorite bullet on this entire slide is unique, because we're not going to be able to stress enough how unique everyone's situation at home is, and not even to mention between student loans, what you have going on in terms of if you have kids, if you're married, parents are depending on you. So like unique is, if there was a better word than unique, I would love to use it, but I think unique is the best word we have for how everything is different for everyone.
And so I just want to go back to one of the other reasons that we're here. When William and I started working, you get to that meeting with all your benefits, and it's kind of like overwhelming because you don't, at least I didn't know what to pick. So little things like what insurance to obtain. Like Accenture, I'm really blessed that they offer so many options, but I was just like completely overwhelmed on which one to pick. And when I went to my friends, like the ones that were in the same start class as I was, they told me, oh, I don't know, I'm just going to stay with my parents. And so I went through a couple of them, and everyone gave me the same answers. So it was one of those situations that like I really didn't know what to do. So what I ended up doing was calling the benefit center. But in order to reduce that for students going into the workforce feeling that way, we want to have this conversation for you guys to feel empowered, and for you guys to know that SHPE has an extensive network of mentors that can be here to serve you.
Yeah, on Eileen's example there, similar situation happened to me where all my coworkers had someone to go to. They had a family tax guy, and then for health insurance, I actually missed out on the window to sign up for health insurance for my first year working at Rockwell. So I didn't have health insurance my entire first year, even though my entire life we didn't have health insurance. But then I graduated, got this job, and my mom was like, okay, great, you have health insurance now. And then I go in, and I completely screwed up signing up because it's miscommunication. And I just want people to feel like, hey, I can ask questions, I can go to HR, and it's going to be completely normal. Because those peers around you might not be in that same situation. Again, the uniqueness of the situation is going to vary.
Awesome. So some key terminologies that you should know, or you may be familiar with them through some of your financial classes. Asset, basically anything that can produce any value to you. So if you own a house, if you own a car, you know, all of the things that you own, your phone, your computer, all of those are assets to you. A liability is something that you owe. So to me, when you owe your car, like I did when I was in college, so that was one of my liabilities. Now that I paid it off, now it becomes an asset, because if I sell it, I can get that money back. And so if you do a very complicated math calculations, asset minus liability equals your net worth. And then we also have cash flow, because cash flow is really important, I think, especially when you graduate, and I think you're, most of the cases, making the most money you've ever handled in your life. And so you need to make sure that you set up some budgeting for yourself, and that you are leaving below your means. That way you have a positive cash flow. So cash flow is, you know, how money is circulating in and out of your account. Anything that you want to add, Will?
No, I think the only thing that you had said on there that I wanted to comment on was, you said that the most money you ever managed or you ever saw in front of you in your life. And like, I know I can relate to that, because when I came out of college, I actually started making more money than both my parents' incomes combined. So I couldn't really go to them and say, what do I do? What's the strategy? And I think you were in a similar situation. And
so you think about it, if you want to manage a lot of money, if you can't manage like the little money that you have now, if you multiply that times 10, like you're gonna have the same habits and the same tendencies to do with this little money, or if you have 10 times as your money. So it's really about setting the habits and the expectations on what you want to do with your money. That can also help you amplify that.
Right.
So now we are going to have a little bit of example. Compound interest, it's a wonderful tool for us, the young people, because that means that time is our friend. And so if we have a initial investment, in this case, we have $12,000 invested over a period of 30 years. This is our initial investment. And with simple interest, it's just interest over the initial investment. This is how much that money is going to grow. And so we are setting this example with a return of 8% interest. And so what compound interest is basically you are gaining interest on the interest that you made. So it's making money off of money that wasn't there before, but you're still making money off of it. So this is really important to know, that when you're investing, the earlier you invest, the better, because over time, you can see how it goes exponentially up. And so talking about this, the rule of 72, you can Google it, and it's a algorithm formula, but to simplify it, this is going to gauge how much and how many years your money is going to double. So you take 72 divided by your expected interest rate, and it's very standard to just use 8%, and that's the amount of time in years that your money is going to double. So for this example with 8%, that's 9 years. Let's say COVID wasn't happening and it was, being a very good year. You can have a rate of return around 15%, 20%, whatever that might be. But everything kind of went south with whole COVID happening. But these are some of the things that we wanted to highlight on how important it is for you guys to start investing early. Then we have 4 different types of savings that you should take into account. The first one, short term. So if you wanted to, save for your next vacation, maybe you need a new computer. If for those who are still students, maybe you want to say for your books for your next class, or if you just want to put a down payment for a car. So that's the first type. The second type that we have is if you want to put a down payment towards a house, or you want to save for a wedding if you have a significant other, or maybe you know that you want to venture into an entrepreneurial role and you want to have the capital for your startup. The third one, which I think is very important, is having an emergency fund. The recommendation is to have 6 to 9 months worth of your expenses in case of an emergency. Most of us weren't expecting a pandemic, so this is a great example of why the emergency savings account is very important to have, or maybe just a rainy day savings account for an emergency. I think it's so much important. When I was in college, I never had one. I had the opportunity to build up over time this when I started working at Accenture. But I think it's very important, especially now that I am financially not responsible for my family, but like if something happens, I know they're gonna come to me, like I'm their bank. And so I think this goes back to the previous slide, that every story is unique. If you are not financially supporting your parents, like that's great, but for those of you, I think it's important to take into account that if you give your parents a set amount of money every month, that should be taking into account your emergency savings as well. And then last one is retirement. And just the one thing that I want to note here, the earlier you start saving for retirement, the better. But William will talk more about retirement in our next slide.
Yeah, so before you go on, Eileen, so I think Dora just sent out a work handout sheets for everyone to look at. So this and everything Eileen has been talking about so far is just to get you guys thinking. Like, we don't want to tell you what to do, but we can make like our recommendations and tell you what we're doing, and we're happy to do that. And again, the uniqueness of short-term, long-term, emergency, retirement, that's all different for everyone. Like, one of my goals is to go and retire in Latin America. The amount of money that I could need for that might be a lot less than someone who's going to plan on retiring in the US. So like, when you're thinking of this, just think in the future, set those goals, and then go from there. But doing it without setting any goals or planning is a bad strategy.
And so for credit, if we think about credit, most of us just think about credit cards, but in essence, credit is just an agreement between the lender and the borrower, and the borrower is going to take the money and pay it back in a future time with some sort of interest. And so the way lenders assess how risky you are is by the credit score. So 35% of your credit score is they're taking into account your payment history. So paying your all of your credit accounts, like credit cards, maybe a car loan, maybe your mortgage, your student loans, all of those, how consistent you are in paying on time, it's 35% of your credit score. So it's super, super important. I think all of the lenders have like automatic payments from your checking account or your savings account, wherever you might have that money. So I think setting those automatic payments is super important because it's a huge chunk of your credit score. The next one.
Really quick, on that payment history, you don't have to pay off the whole balance to get that as a check at 100% clear. You're good. You just have to pay the minimum. I'm not recommending on just paying the minimum, but just to make sure that your credit score stays high, if that's the money that you have a little amount and you need to balance it out, I would at least recommend paying the minimum.
Right. Thank you. The next 3% is the amount owed. So depending on how many accounts, you have a specific credit limit, and a credit card is not evaluated the same as your student loan or as your mortgage. So all of those have different values, but the amounts owed, so how much you actually owe versus compared to the actual credit limit, it's a percentage of what they call your utilization. So the lower that you can keep your utilization, I think William and I are in the 0 to 1%. They recommend 30%, but the lower you can get that utilization number, the better. And when I was in college, I by no means was in the 0 to 1%. That changed when I started working full time. The next percent is the types of credit, which is what I had mentioned: your student loan, your car loan, your mortgage, and your credit cards have different values. And so those are evaluated here in these types of credit. 15% is the length of your credit history. So how long have you had those different types of credit in active? And so I think for those who are in college and don't have a credit line, they don't have anything, maybe you haven't taken any student loans, I think one of the best ways to go about it is to open a student credit card that doesn't have an annual fee. That way you don't have to be paying the annual fee year after year. But this is going to be extremely helpful later down the road when you are borrowing for a house or your master's degree, whatever that might be, because the higher credit score, the lower the interest rates might be. And then the last piece, it's the new credit. And so all of these 5 things are a part of your credit score. And why should you care about your credit score? This is something that will stay with you forever. And it's very important to aim your best to have a good credit score, because this is telling the lenders that you are not as risky, and so they will prefer to lend you more money at a lower interest rate.
I think the only thing I would put on this slide is just be responsible with this, guys. It's in my mind almost more important than your college GPA by a long shot. Like this is
And so the way I treat my credit cards, it's like a debit card. If I don't have the money to make that purchase, I don't put it on my credit card. And so just be very mindful on how you use it. Be very mindful of authorized users, because if you add anyone to your credit card as an authorized user, you are financially responsible for any purchases that person might do. In a good way or a bad way, just be mindful of that.
Okay, hey guys. So I'm going to talk a little bit about 401ks and IRAs. So 401ks are a method for retirement. They're retirement plans that companies are offering. And the cool thing about that is that they're offering a match program usually. So at Rockwell, they do like a 6.5% match. So for every dollar I put in, they're putting in $1 as well for up to 6.5% of my salary. So in my mind, I'm saying, okay, if I commit this amount, they're going to give me that amount, and that's free money because that's money that's not included in my salary to me. So that's how I look at it, and I throw it into what's called a Roth account. But there are traditional and Roth. Traditional, what that means is that they take out the taxes later when you actually withdraw the money, and Roth means that they take out the taxes today at the amount that you're being taxed with your current pay. There are benefits and cons to each. I don't want to go ahead and read all of this, but just keep that in mind. I'm going to do some examples after this. But big key points here: if you have the option at your company for 401ks, I recommend at the minimum putting in what they're matching at. So if they're matching at 6%, put in 6. If they're matching at 7, 7, 8, 8, because they're going to put in what you put in, and it's going to be beneficial to you long term. I put in a little over 6.5%, but that's my choice, and I budget that into my expenses every month. And my plan is for that to just grow, and I don't plan on touching that. That money in my mind is gone and doesn't become a part of my, hey, I need a rainy day fund, I need to go grab some money. It's just sitting there waiting for me to retire one day. An IRA is investment retirement account. and you can do these through different brokerages account like Charles Schwab, Fidelity, and you can go in there and it's similar to 401k, but you're the one putting the money in, and you'll let it sit and it'll accrue interest. It goes into essentially the stock market and gains money for you and interest for you based off the type of IRA you select. Go to the next one, please. So any questions on that, just throw them in the chat and we'll answer those when we get to the end. So the examples here, so we're going to do a pretty simple, straightforward example. So here you have a current tax rate. So let's say today you're getting taxed at 25%, and for the next 60 years, it's going to be taxed 25%, 25%. And then when you pull out, it's also going to be taxed 25%. Annually, you're putting in $6,000. Every year, you're getting a return of 8%. So in a traditional 401k, you put in 6,000 times the amount of years you worked, and now it's accrued interest. You have a total balance of $2 million. But when you withdraw that, they're taxing you 25% of that. You have to pay $500K in taxes. And then versus the Roth, you only got to 1.6 million, but that's because you had to pay taxes on your 6,000 when you put it in every month. So you had a lower number to withdraw from, but you've already paid your taxes. So now your withdrawal amount is 1.678, which is an extra 100K compared to the traditional. So in like this situation, taxes stay the same, you stay in the same bracket the entire time. The Roth account is more favorable, and you'll get more money for your retirement. Before you go to the next one, Eileen, the thing that I would say the traditional would benefit in or be better is that if the annual rate of return was much higher or your tax rate went down, it could change what that difference would be. Go ahead to the next one. So on this one, the tax rate stays the same for what you're getting taxed when you put the money in for your Roth, but the tax for pulling it out went up 35%. So in your mind, if you're thinking, hey, taxes are going to go up, I want to put this in Roth because I'm going to get taxed more. So your traditional is taxed at a higher rate, the same amounts for withdrawal amount, but the 700K is what they're taking out now versus the 500K before. Again, Roth stays the same, zero withdrawal. So the difference is now 300K. So in this situation, that if you think taxes would go up, you would win more with the Roth versus the traditional. And now on the last example, taxes go down. Let's say the government passes a law and they do a flat tax. Everyone pays 15%, doesn't matter what you make. In this situation, the traditional actually wins and is a better decision. So like in my mind, it's like me just deciding, is this going to be Roth, or is this going to be higher taxes, lower taxes, or the same taxes? For me, it's more likely to be higher, but there are people who do both. You can put money in both a traditional and Roth account if your company allows you to. There are people who say, hey, I prefer the traditional. One of the benefits of a traditional 401k is that when you're doing your taxes at the end of the year, they actually take that money out of your income. So let's say you have 100K income, just as an example, you put 20K into a 401k, you're only going to be taxed at the 80K, and that's because you're going to pay the taxes later. Versus a Roth, I'm going to pay taxes on my full 100K, but I don't pay any taxes when I pull out my money. So preference-wise, to me, I like the Roth. Another note for you guys is that there are maxes for investing into 401ks. I think in 2020, the max is like 19,500, and the max for a IRA is like 6,000 or 5,500. So look into those, and if you have the money and you want to put it in there, just plan out correctly on what you're going to do.
So, William, do you want to tell everyone what a vestment period means?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you guys join your companies, they're going to come in and they're going to do a information session on what your benefits are in 401k. So Rockwell came in for me, and I joined the company, accepted my job without even asking this question or knowing much about it. They said, hey, you're going to be vested in your 401k at year mark 3. Hey, don't worry, we're putting in matching 6.5% every year. You're going to get this, and when you retire, you're going to have plenty of money. I was like, wait, what is this vested thing? What's this 3-year? I want my money now. You said you were going to match me now. And they basically said, hey, look, we are matching you, but you earn all of the money at the 3-year mark. So for Rockwell, what that means is that you stay there for 3 years, and at the 3-year mark, they finally give you access to that money. I can leave at 3 years and take all the money they've matched and take it to another account or move to another company, and that money's mine. If I was to leave right now, I'm only 2 years and 5 months in, I would actually leave all the money they've matched and go to another company. I can take all of my money, that's my money, my 401k, deposits, I can take that somewhere else. But all the money they've matched, I have to leave. And for me today, I think that's like, I looked at it the other day, it's like $11,000 or $10,000. So like in my head, I'm like, I can't leave. Like that's money sitting on the table. I'm gonna stay here. So I've heard of other companies who are doing 1 year or first day vested, and it makes it more appealing. So what I would recommend for the university students is absolutely, these are some of the questions you want to ask. Maybe once you get the offer, hey, what does the 401k program look like? And that might be a decision factor. For the people just getting into the workforce, absolutely go ask, what does it look like? Because you should be aware of what your benefits look like. And for the people who have 3, 4, 5+ years in the workforce, I would say just make sure that your plans are aligning with what your goals are. I don't know if you want to add on to anything, Eileen.
Yeah, so your contribution, you can change it as you wish. It's applicable to your payroll system. It's depending by company, but you can change it. Like if you say I only want to match 6%, like you're not gonna be set for life to just that 6%. So if right now, like myself, I don't have children, like I don't really have a lot of financial commitments, then I can put more than that 6%, then I can do that. Let's say I'm putting 10%, but if I have a family and other financial constraints come my way, I can lower that contribution as I wish. And then one other thing, I think it's talking about habits. The first day that you get to your new workplace and you start contributing, you won't see that money in your paycheck. So I think just making yourself aware that you are contributing into your retirement account and you're not getting used to not seeing that money, it's great because if you don't see that money, you're not spending that money. And then the other thing for those university students, when I was on one of my internships, they offered the 401k program for interns. And so that money that I had accrued over the summer, I was able to roll it over into a external brokerage account where it is currently sitting at. And so you still have those options available to you depending with your employer. And I think more than anything, you just need to ask those questions. Both Will and myself arrived at our internships. They're like, put your money into your 401k. And we had like no clue what it meant. And so we want you guys to have the tools to have more of those educated conversations with your teams or with HR.
And a little different story on my end. So Eileen was able to keep her money from her 401k. When I put my money in during one of my internships into a 401k, I left the company and I went to another company to go intern. So they essentially canceled my 401k after a certain time period, and I ended up getting a check for that money back with a penalty. So I had a penalty that I had to pay because I withdrew early and it was already taken out, but I got the money back. If I would go back, I wish I would have asked more questions on what that meant. I mean, it wasn't a lot of money, but it was a good learning lesson for like, hey, if you withdraw money, you're going to get a penalty. And it's just that's not fun. In my mind, I'm like, I just lost money. So this is always a slide that people are interested in. So investing, and we can talk about kind of our preferences. So the different types of investment, they're on the screen. I'm gonna go ahead and read them off. So my favorite is a stock investment. So this is where you get a company, a piece of a company, you own a piece of a company. So stocks like Webull and Robinhood are super popular right now, but you can trade on brokerages and you can buy individual pieces of companies that as the price goes up, the value of what you own goes up, so you can sell that and keep the difference. And you pay capital gains on that. And there's also what's called a dividend stock, where they focus on keeping their price relatively the same, but they try to increase it. But what they do is that they pay you out a dividend every quarter or once a year, depending on the company. And one of the stocks I own, they pay 1 quarter for a dividend, but it's only a $15 stock, and I have like 200 of them. So once a year, I get $200, like quarterly, in total, I get $200 from these stocks, and I really just put it back in and keep buying the same stock over and over, and I just let it go and let it sit. My idea is, hey, I'm just gonna keep doing this, and the money's gonna keep coming back, and it's gonna keep growing and growing, and one day it's gonna be producing me either $1,000 or $2,000 or $3,000 a year that I can use for other investments or for retirement, whatever I need to use it for. But that's a way of getting a residual income. a bond is a deal or a loan that you give the government, and they essentially come with an agreement of like, hey, you're going to have this bond for X amount of time, and when you withdraw, you're going to get X amount of money back. So these used to be extremely popular, and I've heard some of my coworkers, they're now in their 50s. They've told me, hey, I actually opened up a bond for my son. He was just born 1, 2, 3 years ago, and it's a 10-year bond or a 15-year bond, 20-year bond, and they told me, yeah, the plan is let me put this bond in there. The money's gone now, but I'm going to use it to help them pay for their college, or if they don't want to go to college, they can use it to buy a car, or they can use it for whatever they'd like. But the idea is let me put something in there for my child, and then they'll be able to use it later. So I think that's cool for like the kids to get a bond for them. For myself, I prefer the stock investment. It is riskier, but the bond is safe. So if you like safe investments, bonds are great. Mutual funds, they're essentially buckets of stocks. So if you take the S&P 500, which is 500 of the U.S.'s stocks, throw them into a bucket. They own a bunch of little pieces of it, and you're investing in that bucket. When that bucket goes up, the money, your value goes up, and they also pay dividends. The difference there's a mutual fund, and there's also a index fund. The mutual fund will invest right back into itself. So it's like, hey, I generated this money out of the bucket. I'm just going to put it back in there, and it's going to continue to grow. So if you don't have time to invest, or you're not looking at it every day, like I'm constantly on my phone looking at this stuff. Mutual funds are good because you just put the money in there and it just goes. An index fund creates the dividend just like a mutual fund, but you have to look at that dividend and figure out what you want to do with it. It doesn't automatically reinvest it. So index funds, if you're more active and you're looking and you want to be more engaged, that's a good way to go. Mutual funds, hey, I just want it to grow. Put some money in. It's going to go in with the U.S. economy, with the 500 companies in the U.S. that I want, that it's going to get put in the bucket, and it's just going to grow and let it go. It's totally fine. Another thing that is super hot right now and popular, real estate, renting properties, Airbnb, VRBO, things like that is a great way to not only get equity but create residual income. So I know that's a hot topic. Like some of the podcasts I listen to are only about real estate and how to get involved in real estate and what people are doing. So like this is a good other way to invest your money into an asset or a business. And then options trading. Options trading is where you're betting if the stock value is going to go higher or lower. So I personally avoid options trading, but you essentially make a deal with the brokerage and say, hey, I think that stock's going to go up, but if it does go up, I want to buy it at the stock price that I have it today. So for example, stock's $1, I'm going to make a deal with them, and I'm going to say, hey, the stock value is going to go up to $1.50. If it does go up to that $1.50, you get to sell or buy your shares at $1 and keep the difference of that $1.50. So it's a good way to make a lot of money. I think it's extremely risky, and I am a person who loves risk. So just do your research. I can't stress that enough on stocks or on options. I have friends who love options, and that's all they trade. But they're constantly reading and learning more and more about the companies that they're betting on, whether they're betting for them to go big or for the price to go down. I don't know what you want to add on to that, Eileen.
So I think this is a good slide to just compare side to side. William is a very aggressive investor who spends countless hours and reading about the stocks and the market and everything that is going on. Whereas I don't particularly want to spend all my time doing that, and I am more of a fund girl. There's target date funds and different types of funds that I prefer, that I put my money in there, and I'm not necessarily, tracking the market to see what's happening every single day. So it's doing your research, knowing what works for you, and feeling if what you think is working, what you are doing is working for you. If not, it's your money, you're able to pivot. And so you might have losses. We both experience losses through investing. And so be mindful of how much money you are actually investing, because I basically don't invest money that I need. I just are investing right now kind of like my play money to kind of understand what's going to work for me before I start investing more of my money.
Right. And Eileen did mention something called the date mutual funds. So those date mutual funds, the further they are out, those are the dates that you're expected to retire. So if you were to pick one right now for 2060, it would be extremely aggressive today. And as you move closer to that date, it's going to become less and less aggressive, and it's just going to grow with the market. But as you get closer to that date, it's going to become more conservative and safer, probably less reward in those safer bets, but good for retirement when you know you need the money to be able to survive.
So we can launch the third poll, Dora. We're coming to the end of our workshop, and we just really wanted to know if this session was helpful. We have 2 more slides with some key takeaways and some books, podcasts, and apps that we recommend because we use. And so let's go ahead and launch the poll and see the results from the audience.
Okay, poll is launched.
Guys. Brutally honest.
Yes, we love feedback. And so we actually, William and I are friends, and we love talking about this. And it kind of like evolved into an RLDC session with students, and that was, you know, a first good experience. And now we're happy to share this with the rest of the SHIP Familia outside of Region 5.
Okay, we are at 75% of participation in the poll, and we're at 80, and right now we're at 63% are saying that it is very helpful.
Awesome.
Okay, I'm going to, at 80%, I'll go ahead and close the polls, and then we'll share the results. So we have 62% said very helpful, 36% said somewhat helpful, and then 2% said not as helpful, and 0% said not at all.
And really quick, if you are that 1 or 2, 3, 4 people who put not as helpful, please put in some feedback in the chat. I don't know if everyone gets to see that, Dora, but if it's just you, I'd love to see some feedback where you're at and how we could actually help you out, or what kind of information you were looking for. I think that would be good. I think shortly we're going to be opening for questions as well, so put in some questions in there, guys. And then some key takeaways. I have some things written down that I just wanted to share with you guys. So again, stress on how unique everyone's situation is, and how you can talk to your friends. Like I talked to Eileen, but I know we can't do a one-for-one comparison. And not only in our home situations, but what our companies offer are different. Our cost of living and what we spend our money on is different. But the end goal might be similar. So we discussed that in our strategies. Be opening, and on that one, talking to other people, be open to listening to your friends. So or friends or strangers, don't necessarily shut them down immediately, because you just don't know what's good or where you can get some good information from until you hear it and listen to the explanation. Like, I never thought I was going to be going to Google for a bunch of company research, and like that's my #1 place to go. I just start typing in company names and start looking at news and a whole bunch of different outlets. And then start early. Like, absolutely, I can't stress this enough. Like, if you are a university student, at least start early, start looking at some of this information, start planning. The earlier, the better, just because of that compounding interest that Eileen started with on the second, third, fourth slide, whichever slide it was on. It's critical.
For me, the first thing is do your due diligence and educate yourself. And if you think that you're on a good track and you know your family, your friends don't know about this, or you think they might take any benefit of having a conversation like this, like, please spread the word. Financial literacy, financial education is like very important. I think especially in our communities, we don't talk about this enough. As we diversify our portfolios and whatnot, also diversify your mentors. You might have an academic mentor, you might have a professional development mentor, like make sure that you have a diverse network of mentors. Maybe you can get a financial mentor if you know someone close by, or you can reach out to me and well if you have any other questions. And then my last point is own your worth. This is not dictated by a monetary value. This is dictated by yourself. So don't make yourself less or more just on a monetary value. Like think about all of the other things in your personal life and your integrity, that all of those things are part of your self-worth. So that is all we have. Here are QR codes to our LinkedIn, and then here are some of our podcast favorite books and apps that we currently use for our personal finances.
I don't know if you want to talk about your podcast or books or.
There's so many podcasts. I really wanted to listen to a podcast that was female-led. And so this was one of the first ones that popped up, and it really talks about almost everything about investing, real estate, starting a new job, how to finance your own startup. It's very diverse, and she has like podcasts every single day. So every single day, it's like 30 minutes of just, she calls it financial inspiration, and I really, really enjoy it. She's really funny too.
Yeah, and then I put the other two on there, guys. The Bigger Pockets one is one that just solely talks about real estate investment. So if you're interested in that, I recommend that they have episodes that probably go back 2, 3, 4 years. And then How to Money. This is actually a new one that I started listening to in the last like 4 weeks. It's these two guys that they just start discussing their everyday activities and how they tie that back to their money and their budgeting. Their first episode is about biking and how biking can affect your budget and why it's a good activity. So like there's like I like them just because I feel like I can apply what they're talking about to like my life and real world everyday things, and it's not such a big investment like the real estate. It's a, hey, let's talk about this topic, biking. Let's talk about doing your taxes. Like these small things that people either don't have someone to talk to. This is a good place to just start listening to those activities.
So are we, Eileen and William, are we ready for some questions?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, so let's start off with a question from Brianna Gomez. Thank you for sending it in. What would you recommend for a student who's never had a credit card and is about to graduate?
Open a credit card.
Open a credit card. It's a great start. I really like Discover, and they have no annual fee. It's a student credit card while you're in college, and then after you graduate, they upgrade you to their regular one. And so they have quarterly, you get cash back for specific categories that change quarterly. So like from one quarter, it's like gas money, and the other one can be restaurants. Last quarter, it's like Target, Amazon, and Walmart, because like everyone's buying gifts. And so opening a student credit card while you're in college, I think is important, and I just like Discover.
Yeah, I would tell you go on Google and type in NerdWallet and then type in credit card, and it's going to take you to a NerdWallet website with a bunch of different credit card options. And they'll actually, there's a software on there that you can click what's important to you, and it'll start to bring out credit cards that are good in those aspects. Like if you want cash back or credit or gift cards or travel, they'll give you that. If you want no annual fee, they'll give you a list of credit cards you can compare. And just sit down, start comparing, apply to one. They'll get back to you either immediately or in a few days, and you'll get something. But read all your different options. That's what I would say. And NerdWallet is a really good place that has all the information in one place where you can compare your Discover, American Express, Chase, and all these different things. And yeah.
And their first credit card will always have a relatively low credit limit, just because if you've never had credit, they don't know how risky you are. So don't be blunt.
I hope that's good, Dora.
All righty. Well, the next one is from Evelyn Wajado. What happens to your 401k if you decide to leave the company? Does it follow you?
So your 401k is your money, and you can either keep it in the brokerage that the company had for you. So companies aren't managing the money for you. They'll partner with Fidelity or Charles Schwab, and those people will actually manage the money for you. That's all they do every day. So if you leave the company, you can roll it over into another brokerage account. You can leave it in that account, and you'll pay fees annually for it to be managed. You're already paying these fees if you're through your company. It's already being charged out of your 401k. So you could keep it there, or you can move it over. It really just depends on what you want to do. If you're like me, I'm like super simple-minded and just like make it easier. So dump it all into one place, and I'll go there and check. Some people like to separate out. I think I was talking to Eileen the other day, and she's like, "Hey, I have different bank accounts for different parts of my life," and I'm over here like, no, just keep it all in one place. And for me, it's easy to manage it that way versus putting some money over here for this, some money over here for that, some money over there for that. So for me, I would probably just dump it all into one and follow it that way.
And so what I would say, if you're planning on rolling over your 401k from a company to an external rollover IRA account, make sure that you have the rollover IRA account, the account open first, because that way you can just tell, that service provider, hey, send that account. And that way you don't see the money, so you don't get taxed on it. Because if you get the money deposited into your account, you're gonna get taxed because you got the money, even though you didn't do anything with it. You might get taxed. And so I really like Mint, which is this app right here that consolidates all my accounts into one, and so I get like a good dashboard of all of my accounts in one single app. So that's something that I really like about it.
And if you are going to do anything when you're moving companies, I would even recommend talking to a financial advisor just to make sure that you're taking all the correct processes or steps in the process to do it correctly. Again, me and Eileen are not financial advisors.
Okay, so our next question, as a recent graduate entering the workforce, what are some examples of investments? I usually think the stock market, but are there alternatives?
There are. So stock market is absolutely a big one and probably the most popular. But there are actually like private loan investments where you can go to companies that they provide loans. So you give them money, a loan. They usually have a fixed rate of percentage of return that they'll provide you. And you make an agreement at the end of the year or 2 years, whenever you guys decide, they'll provide you your money back and the interest that it accrued over that time. There are also now, it seems like there's apps for everything. There's apps and groups who are crowdfunding money to buy like real estate and businesses, which is something you can get involved in. Again, do your research. I haven't even touched any of that in terms of research or looking into it. I just know that they're becoming more popular as people want to get into real estate and they don't have the capital to start doing that. My recommendation is always start small. Something like Robinhood or Webull allows you to have access on your phone and wherever you go, and you don't even have to invest large amounts. Like I had a friend who started with $100, and it was just for him to learn step by step, how do I buy a stock, how do I sell a stock, why does the stock go up and down? And he was like, yeah, I need to put some skin in the game, because if not, I'm just not going to even pay attention to it.
No, I agree. If they don't want to invest in the stock market and they want to invest, I go the Aileen route. I just have fun. I don't do individual stocks.
All right. Next question comes from Christian North. In companies like Rockwell, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, you can move or transfer across the country. What happens with taxes as different states have different tax breaks?
So I've never lived in a state that has an income tax, or I've only lived in there for internships. So I don't know what the repercussions are for full-time roles. So I actually don't know if your income for your 401k is taxed at the state level or city level. That's one of those things that I would say like research, because I've always lived and worked in Florida or Texas that don't have income tax. So I don't think I can really answer this question too well. But I would imagine that your money that's already been invested is good, and then it would only affect your new income going forward after you move, and it would be taxed at the rate that you're getting taxed at now, with possibly a city tax or a state tax. If you're if you're talking about money going into a 401k.
And so you get taxed whenever you make use of that money. So if you're investing in your 401k traditionally, you're getting a tax break. You're not, paying taxes for that money until you take it out. So they might charge taxes on when you take it out wherever you're living at that point in time.
And that's why Florida is such a popular place for people to go retire, because they pay less taxes because there's no state tax.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So our last question this evening will come from Victoria Carlos. And she's saying that I tend to be a bit overwhelmed with this bigger paycheck that I'm blessed with. How do you balance, or if there should be, the idea of paying debt versus being acceptable to spend money on fun and travel? So that balance there.
You want to answer it first, Eileen, or do you want me to go?
Go with your story.
I mean, I'm not going to go with the story, but what I would tell you is there's two ways to look at it, and it's either an emotional decision or it's going to be a numbers logical decision. And in this situation, I would usually tell you absolutely always go logical. But in my opinion, paying off a loan could be an emotional decision. So I had a little bit of student debt when I graduated, and mathematically, the interest that I was going to get on it was so low that if I plugged the numbers into Excel, I could make more money by investing it into the stock market and then paying off the loan at the minimum rate, which is not a bad deal. But emotionally, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed. I need to get rid of this. So I actually started paying $500 a paycheck into my student loan until it was gone. And again, it wasn't a lot. It was $8,000-9,000. I paid it off under a year. But to me, once that was done, I was so like less stressed. And it just made life easier. And I learned to live without those $500 every paycheck. So like, as soon as I get paid, the first thing I do is move those $500 into Robinhood. So like, I don't even see it still. Like that money disappeared. So if you don't like that idea, plug the numbers into Excel, and the numbers you'll get from it will tell you if you should pay off your student loan faster, or your car debt, or your house, or if you should put it into investing. And there's calculators online for all of this stuff. Like you can literally type in, you could probably type that question into Google and say, hey, should I pay off my student loan, or travel, or put it into investments? And then on the travel, for me, traveling is like one of the top things that I do. Like that's probably where I dump all my fun money. So like right now during this virus, I'm like freaking out. But I would tell you that you need to put some money aside for things that interest you, like traveling or your hobbies, whatever that is. Because if you just work to pay things off, I think you're not gonna have the satisfaction that you want out of life.
And I think the easiest way is to set up a budget to see, where is your money going and how much you can afford towards your debt, towards your travel. My first year when I started working, like, it blew a lot of my money. I'll tell you that. Everything I couldn't afford when I was. This is how much money I'm going to spend for travel. This is my fund money. My money for, towards my emergency savings. And we have savings. Set the numbers up. You'll be able to see, where do I have some leeway that I can be a little bit more flexible towards what I want to spend my money on. And I think it's one of those that are
Eileen, I think we lost you.
You were like, Eileen, you were like breaking in and out.
Oh, I don't know what the last thing you heard.
Oh, you're totally back now that you're done explaining.
Okay.
Oh,
All righty. Any final words from, actually, let's give some final words, William. We'll start with you.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for the feedback. If you guys have any questions, reach out. We're happy to help. We're happy to give any advice. This is something that I think is important, and I didn't really have someone to talk to. So like I've literally started by talking to friends, and I talked to Eileen about future goals, and I'll talk to my other friends about what I'm doing currently in my investments. And I get super excited when something goes well, and then I also get sad and mad when something goes wrong. But still talking to someone and making sure that what I'm doing makes sense is a good way to do it. So plan, start early. Everyone's path unique. Critical.
and for me, again, thank you so much for coming. I think it says a lot about you for you and trying to better yourself that for the whole ship. Educate yourself as much as you can. Be a lending hand for whoever needs it, and make sure to connect with people that want to help you and be part of the journey, like me and William. Connect with us. We're more than happy to have those conversations with you. We want to stick around.
Okay, well, there you go, Ship Familia. Please join me in thanking Eileen and William. Outstanding information tonight, so thank you so much for being here. For our audience, we hope to see you at the May 27th webinar as we listen to Carlos Jimenez and Nigel Turlo from Toyota, who will present the essential skills needed in the age of disruption. So come hear their tips and strategies to increase your tech skills and learn how to be nimble and reinvent yourself. So actually the next 3 webinars will all be focused on improving your tech skills. So Ship Amelia, please remember to take our survey. You will receive a thank you email with the survey link after this webinar. We need your feedback to make the program the best it can be. And remember that this webinar, along with all the others, can be found on our ship.org website in the Programs tab under latinXfactor. Signing off from Ship National, buenas noches, Ship Familia.
Thank you.
Buenas noches.